It's August already, and it's time for another gardening update. Let's get out there and take a look. The ají dulce has really grown over the past several weeks, and it has quite a few peppers on it now. I'm looking forward to trying these, and I'll try one and do a taste test as soon as I get a ripe one. The black pepper has a half a dozen or so peppers on it, and it's got one down at the bottom that's just about ready to pick. I think August and September are going to be good months for this one. It's also setting a few at the top. While I was looking at the peppers on this one, I noticed there's a black swallowtail chrysalis. In about 2 weeks, a fully grown butterfly will emerge from that one. Right next to the blot is the Pippin's Golden Honey, and that one's produced quite a few peppers so far this year and is still setting on. Next in that row is the Oda. It's a purple sweet pepper, and it's setting on quite a few peppers now, and it's going to produce quite a few in this month and next. The variegation on the candy cane pepper has improved greatly over the last month or so, and it has a few peppers down towards the bottom and is still setting on a few towards the top. This has turned out to be a little better than I expected. The Buena Mulata pepper is a hot pepper. It's always productive for us, and this year is no exception. They start out purple, then they change to a couple of other colors before finally turning to red. These aren't quite fully ripe. Jimmy Nardello is a good pepper to eat, and it's also a very productive pepper, as you can see from all the peppers on it. This is getting way down a little bit, and this other branch has quite a few on it too. The bush beans and the project peppers in these grow bags are doing very well considering how hot it's been. We had 1 week break from the heat, but it's back now, and we're over 100 or near 100 every day. These are the ones I've been calling Halloween. They start out very dark and then turn to bright orange as the peppers ripen, and the foliage is pretty dark too. I'll pick out the plant that I like the best, and that's the one I'll save seeds from. Even though it's been a terrible year for tomatoes here because of the extreme heat, Haley's Rainbow has really produced a lot of tomatoes. The plant itself has variegated leaves, and the tomatoes are orange with a darker orange blush when fully ripe. Not very many of these split, but I see one that did. The small red tomatoes to the right are Shimo Furry. Unfortunately, the Haley's Rainbow are a little bit too mild tasting for my taste, but I do like the Shimo Furry quite a bit. Another one that was very productive for us was Banana Toes. I grew that one in a 10-gallon grow bag, and as you can see, it produced quite a few tomatoes. I picked all of these tomatoes on this table in one morning. Like the Haley's Rainbow, the taste of this one is very, very mild, and I didn't especially enjoy eating it fresh, but it might make a good sauce tomato. Bundaberg Rumball was one of the few tomatoes in our garden that set any fruit during the month of July when the temperatures were over 100 degrees every day. I did a taste test video of this one, and if you didn't catch that video, I'll put a link to that down in the description below. I picked a few off this plant this morning, and it looks like I'm going to have some in August and probably September and maybe October. The Hopi Red Dye Amaranth is probably about 7 feet tall, or maybe a little taller now. I'm not sure how tall it's going to end up, but it's got quite a few side branches with flower heads forming on them too, so it should produce a lot of seeds. The triple-digit heat that we've had this summer has been extremely hard on the pole beans, but 2 types out of the 6 have ended up producing pretty well. Those are the Monte Gusto and the Seychelles that you're looking at here. Whenever you have extreme weather like we have this summer, it's a good idea to take note of any particular types that do very well in the heat, and these 2 have done well for us. I have 4 F2 autocross pepper plants growing in 2 different grow bags for a total of 8 plants. As you would expect from the F2 generation, there's quite a bit of variability. I have a very tall plant, a very short plant, and a lot of them in between. This one here even looks like a black pearl, and I think that is exactly the type of plant that crossed with the Oda. And since Oda is a pendant type, it got that upright version from the black pearl. And as you can see, some of the peppers are decent size, and some of the plants have upright peppers and some are hanging down. And then oddly, some start out by being upright and then they end up by hanging down, like this one here. Along with the tall plants and the short plants, we also have some different shapes of peppers. This one is shaped almost like a Lesia pepper, but much smaller. And on the other side, we have a plant with quite a few peppers on it that is much shorter. And as you can see, some of these are starting to ripen, with some of them ripening much sooner than others. Now let's take a look at the 4 plants in the other grow bag. You can kind of get a look at the different height of the different plants. It's interesting how many different types of peppers can grow off of one cross. There are a couple in this grow bag that I think aren't too special, and I probably won't carry those forward. I still have a few weeks to make up my mind on which ones I'm going to save seeds from and which ones I'm not. As you can see, this plant here is much shorter than the one right next to it, even though it does have quite a few peppers on it. And I'm sure there are probably quite a few different heat levels in this group, and I'll be testing those out very soon of the ones that I'm going to save seeds from. This plant here is pretty tall, has upright peppers and lots of peppers on it. But I don't really like the looks of it. It's too similar to other types of peppers that I already have. Then if we take a look at the plant just on the other side of this one, we have another one that grows peppers that are more broad and short. That's an interesting look, so I might save seeds from one of the 2 plants that look like that. I'm still not sure yet. One thing I noticed about some of these plants is they have purple blooms instead of white like you would expect on an Oda plant. Here's a look at 5 different peppers that I just picked off of one of those plants, so you can see the color changes that it goes through. This long purple eggplant has produced a couple of dozen fruit off of it and is starting to slow down now, so I'm going to give it a severe pruning. I'll harvest the few that it has left on it, and then I'm going to cut all of those branches a lot shorter. And I've done this in the past, and it seems to rejuvenate the plant, cause more growth to occur, and as well as the growth, you end up with more blooms and more fruit in September. I could let it grow just like it is, and I'll get a few fruit, but I've found that giving it a good pruning about this time of year seems to help it rejuvenate and produce more in the month of September. If you're wondering about the long sleeves, I wear those early in the morning. That way I can spray with insect spray on the sleeves instead of my skin. This time of year I do a lot of seed saving, and in this case I'm saving basil seeds. I just take the flower heads, dry them out, put them in a kitchen strainer, then I rub them against the strainer, and the seeds and a little chaff falls through on the paper plate, with the rest of the stems and flower heads still in the strainer. When it looks something like this, I take it outside, blow lightly onto the seeds and chaff, and the seeds will stay in the plate and the chaff will blow out. I harvested a few ears of corn, and this is what we got. The first one looks like almost pure japonica, and the other 2 look more like the hybrid form. I also crossed back to a few of the hybrid popcorn that I've worked with. I don't think I've talked about the melons in a while, but I finally have one that's getting close to being large enough that it will start to ripen soon. I really like this type. That single carrot that I let flower has seed heads that are starting to dry out now, so I'll be cutting those very soon. The red noodle beans that I have growing on the poles are starting to produce a few beans now. The Malabar spinach will be very late, but it's growing pretty well now. The Matoyo eggplant has several fruit that will be ready to harvest very soon. I have to keep a close eye on the eggplants because the bugs really like them. I went ahead and harvested that one large blot pepper and accidentally broke off a smaller one, and I also picked a couple of Jimmy Nardellos. The black swallowtail butterflies are very active now, and they've laid a whole bunch of eggs on my parsley. As you can see, there are quite a few small caterpillars already crawling around. And when they're freshly hatched, this is what they look like. This is a female black swallowtail butterfly, and if I'm going to be doing any spraying in an area and I find a freshly hatched one like this one, I just hang them up on the Rose of Sharon bush and let them finish drying there. After they're dry, they'll take off and go on about their way. But if you see one in your garden and you don't have to move it, leave it there. Here's a quick look at the beautiful colors on the bottom side of the wings. While I was doing some weeding, I found this baby garter snake and put it out near the grow bags and let it loose. Here's a look at the Murakumo morning glories. They vary anywhere from almost completely white to almost completely purple, and everything in between. Before you rush out and buy some seeds, be aware that they reseed prolifically, and after you plant them once, sometimes they can come up for years after. Let us know if you're having a lot of heat where you're at. It's been terrible here, and I hear from a lot of folks farther south from us, and it's been pretty hot down there too. If you're just now finding this channel and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.